There's something that's happened to you more than once that you've never been able to quite explain. Someone fell silent after you spoke. Not a silence of disapproval, a silence of someone caught off guard by something that, to you, was nothing out of the ordinary. You must have thought you overreacted, that you spoke too loudly, delivered something too well done, paid attention where no one had asked. And you took a step back, without understanding why, thinking the problem was that you had shown up. But that wasn't it. There's a kind of brilliance that Virgo carries and never learned to recognize, because it never came from a desire to be seen. It came from somewhere else, quieter, more honest, harder to fake, and that's precisely why it dazzles those nearby, because it's too rare to go unnoticed. There's something strange that's been happening to you since you were very young, and you've never quite known how to name it. People look at you differently after you speak, after you solve a problem that no one else saw, after you deliver something so well done that it seems almost unnecessary to praise it, and yet you're always the last to notice the effect it has. You think you're just doing your job. You're just paying attention where others haven't. You're just correcting a detail that to you is too obvious to be a merit. But at some point, someone falls silent after you speak. Someone looks at you for a second longer than usual. And you feel that subtle discomfort of someone who doesn't know if they did something wrong, or if, unintentionally, they just revealed too much. There's a kind of brilliance that doesn't ask permission. It doesn't come from spotlights, stages, or applause. It comes from the way you see what others don't see. And it's precisely this kind of light that most bothers those nearby, because it doesn't warn before it appears. Imagine a gem cutter bent over a rough stone. He's not thinking about any brilliance while he works. He's thinking about the next flaw to correct, the next angle that needs more precision, the next cut that could ruin everything if he makes a mistake. He doesn't see the final result while he's cutting. He only sees what still needs adjusting. And that's precisely why, when he finishes, the stone's brilliance surprises everyone except him. That's you. Someone who works so closely with their own flaws that they can never see from afar what they're building. While others already see the finished piece, shining under the light, you're still adjusting a detail that to you remains imperfect. And that's exactly what happened at the moment you least expected it. You did what you always do. You paid attention where no one else did. You corrected what no one had noticed. You delivered something so well constructed that it seemed natural. But this time, someone saw it. Someone stopped. Someone commented on something you didn't expect to hear, something that surprised you, because to you, it wasn't anything special. That's not exactly how the others saw it. There comes a point when your way of doing things stops being useful and starts becoming undeniably visible. And that moment arrives without warning, because you're never observing your own brilliance. You're always one step behind it, correcting, adjusting, refining something that in your own eyes isn't quite ready yet. This is the most curious part of all. While you continue trying to reach a more accurate version of yourself, others are already reacting to the version you were yesterday. They comment on a job you've already forgotten. They are impressed by a solution that for you was obvious. They see you as a step above where you place yourself, and that's where the real discomfort lies. It's not vanity, it's not ego, it's the strange feeling of discovering that someone saw you shine before you yourself realized you were shining. That's how it was that day. You did what you always do. You paid attention to details that others ignore. You solved something with a calmness that seemed too simple to be special. And then, in the middle of your routine of always correcting, always adjusting, always looking for the next mistake to fix, came a reaction you never expected from someone you never imagined would be paying attention all the time, noticing every invisible detail, waiting finally for the right moment to speak. And what that person said kept swirling in your head for the rest of the day, because it wasn't an ordinary compliment. It was as if someone had seen a version of you that you yourself hadn't yet recognized, And you kept wondering, since when has this been happening without me realizing it? It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose speaks precisely to this blind spot that exists within those born under Virgo. The difficulty of recognizing their own worth while it is already being admired by everyone around them. It's not a book about showing off. It's about learning to see clearly what you build every day without giving yourself credit. It's about stopping chasing a perfection that never arrives and starting to perceive the brilliance you already carry, even raw, even unfinished. If you've made it this far feeling that familiar knot in your stomach, that mix of shame and recognition, it's because something inside you already knows it's time to face this head-on, without postponing it again, without locking this feeling away in a drawer like you always do. The link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. Now tell me in the comments, when was the last time someone complimented you on something that, to you, was just the bare minimum? And perhaps it is this very question, asked in a low voice at the end of an ordinary day, that finally unlocks what you've been avoiding understanding about yourself. Because the truth is this, no one is born knowing how to measure their own brilliance. And Virgo, less than anyone else, because they've been trained their whole lives to measure everything except themselves. They measure the mistake, the detail out of place, the wrong comma, the missed deadline. But they never learn to measure the effect they have when they deliver something well done. This is the unexpected reason behind this whole story. Virgo's brilliance was never about performance. It was always about honesty. And honesty, when rare enough, blinds those who are used to seeing only half of things. Think about how many times you've preferred to tell an uncomfortable truth rather than repeat a comfortable lie just to keep the peace. How many times have you corrected someone, even knowing it might sound annoying, simply because letting the mistake pass seemed like a greater betrayal than any momentary discomfort? This, which for you is just a way of being, is rare enough for others to seem almost disconcerting. People aren't used to so much honesty without hidden ulterior motives. And when they find it, they react like someone who finds too much light after a long time in the dark. They need a moment for their eyes to adjust. There's a painting restorer who spends his days bent over old canvases, removing layer after layer of darkened varnish, accumulated dust, paint that other hands have applied over the original, trying to correct or disguise something. He works slowly, almost without breathing, because he knows that one wrong move could forever destroy what's hidden underneath. And the most curious thing is that he never knows for sure what he'll find until the last layer is gone. Sometimes it's just more ordinary paint. Sometimes it's a color that no one has seen for centuries, vibrant, intact, waiting. Virgo is two things at once. It's the restorer and it's the painting. It spends its life scraping away its own layers, correcting what it considers wrong in itself, trying to achieve a cleaner, more correct, more worthy version of itself. But beneath so much correction, there is an original color that never needed any adjustment. And it is precisely these colors that others see when they least expect it, when Virgo lowers its guard for a second and lets slip who it really is without varnish, without a protective layer. This explains why sometimes a small gesture, almost insignificant to the person who made it, has a disproportionate effect on those nearby. It's not an exaggeration on the part of the observer. It's that, for a moment, the original paint appeared, undisguised, without the usual excessive care. And the brilliance of that, even if it lasts only a second, is impossible to ignore. There's a detail that almost no one notices in this restoration process. The more layers are removed, the more the restorer needs to trust that there's something genuine underneath it all. If he stops halfway, afraid of what he might find, the artwork gets stuck in a kind of limbo, neither hidden nor revealed. That's exactly where Virgo usually gets stuck. You remove a layer, find something too uncomfortable to face, and stop. He puts the painting back in the tank, half restored, half still covered, as if that was safer than finishing the job. But a painting that's stalled during restoration is never truly at peace. It disturbs passers-by because it has clear parts alongside blurry parts, as if two versions of the same image were competing for space on the same canvas. And that's what others feel when they're near a Virgin Mary who hasn't yet fully embraced her own brilliance, a mixture of admiration and strangeness, because they see fragments of something extraordinary surrounded by layers of doubt that stubbornly refuse to leave. But what to do with this feeling that maybe you've been hiding from yourself all along, waiting for the last layer of varnish to peel off on its own? There is a practical way. Understanding that removing your protective layer isn't about exposing yourself. It's about stopping wasting energy, hiding what is already beautiful by nature. It is precisely this discernment that the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose helps to develop, adapted to how Virgo processes the world, less veneer, more truth. The last copies are running out. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There is yet another curious detail in all of this, which perhaps explains why Virgo never sees its own effect as it happens. Imagine a professional bent over a workbench, adjusting lenses one by one, testing each curvature of glass against the light, searching for the exact point where the image stops being blurry and becomes sharp. He spends the entire day making these fine adjustments for others. He tests, corrects, returns the instrument ready, calibrated, perfect. But he himself rarely uses these glasses to look at himself. Virgos do this with the people around them all the time. They adjust the perspective of those who are lost. They point out the detail that was out of focus in someone's life. They restore clarity to those who arrived blurred, confused, unable to see their own problem. And they do it so naturally that they don't even realize the magnitude of what they are offering. For them, it's just helping. For those who receive it, it's seeing the world clearly for the first time in a long time. And that's precisely where the unexpected reason for her great surprise lies. People aren't just impressed by what Virgo knows. They're impressed by the clarity they begin to see in themselves after being near her. It's a kind of borrowed, reflected brilliance, almost invisible to the one who generates it, but absolutely transformative for the one who receives it. But there's a price to pay. While she adjusts everyone else's focus, Virgo continues to see her own life in a blurry way, full of doubts about whether she's doing enough, whether she's in the right place, whether she deserves what she's receiving in return. And no one ever offers her the same careful adjustment that she offers everyone else. Notice something curious. Those who adjust their glasses all day long develop, over time, a selective blindness to their own vision defects. They become so accustomed to looking through the instrument that they forget to look inside it. And so, Virgo becomes increasingly precise in seeing the outside world, and increasingly inattentive to their own internal blurring. They know exactly where a friend is making a mistake, but cannot name their own mistake with the same clarity. This is one of the reasons why Virgos are so surprised when someone returns the favor, when someone finally points out something true about themselves. It's not their usual behavior. They are so trained to be the adjuster that they've forgotten what it's like to be adjusted. And when that happens, the effect is almost disproportionate. A simple phrase, said by someone from the outside, can reorganize months of internal turmoil, simply because it came from an angle that Virgo could never reach on their own, always looking outward. There is one last layer to this story, perhaps the most revealing of all. Imagine an artisan bent over a metal plate, carving line by line, a design that only exists because his hand decided at that exact moment, with that exact pressure, to leave a mark there. He doesn't think about permanence while he works. He only thinks about the next cut, the next detail, the next mistake he needs to avoid. But the result of his work endures for decades. A well-made engraving survives its maker. This is how Virgo affects the lives of those around her. She doesn't realize at the time the magnitude of the mark she's leaving. A piece of advice given in passing. A kindness offered without expecting anything in return. A correction made delicately at the right moment. All of this enters someone's life and remains there, etched in their memory, long after Virgo has forgotten it ever happened. And that is precisely the great surprise that awaits her sooner or later, to discover suddenly, through an unexpected message, a reunion, a word spoken years later, that what seemed insignificant changed the course of another person's life, that the mark remained, that the brilliance she swore she didn't have illuminated an entire path she never got to see with her own eyes. There is a huge difference between carving out of vanity and carving out of genuine care, and that difference is what separates an empty mark from one that endures over time. Those who enter out of vanity want to be remembered. Those who enter out of genuine care simply want that detail to be correct, resolved in the right place. And it is precisely this second intention, quieter, more selfless, that produces the most lasting marks. Virgo almost never carves thinking about being remembered. And paradoxically, that is what ensures that she is remembered. There's also a kind of fear hidden in this story. The fear that by acknowledging her own impact, Virgo will become someone she doesn't want to be. Someone who is conceited, who shows off, who loses the modesty that has always served as protection. But acknowledging a mark is not the same as boasting about it. It's just about stopping pretending to herself that the indentation never happened. Recognizing this mark, understanding one's own impact without hiding behind automatic modesty, is an exercise in courage that few people teach Virgos to do. It is precisely this type of recognition that the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose proposes, helping those born under this sign to stop denying their own worth just because it has never been accompanied by applause. The last units of this material are running out, and this may be the last chance to access this content. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. There's an old, almost forgotten image of an alchemist bent over his laboratory, mixing substances, testing reactions, burning the same material repeatedly, convinced that he needs to transform something crude into something noble. He spends his whole life believing that gold is a distant destiny, a result that will arrive after yet another attempt, another adjustment, another corrected formula. And it is only much later, almost by chance, that he notices the detail that changes everything. The material he had been trying to purify already contained from the beginning traces of the very gold he sought to create. He wasn't manufacturing something new. He was merely removing, layer by layer, what prevented the original brilliance from appearing. This is the same confusion that runs through the life of almost every Virgo. The belief that value is always one step ahead, in a future version, more studied, more corrected, more deserving. And meanwhile, the brilliance that others already see, the one that causes unexpected silences, longer gazes, emotional comments from people Virgos never imagined were paying attention to. That brilliance is not a promise. It's a fact that has already happened, silently, a long time ago. In the end, perhaps the most beautiful thing of all is realizing that Virgo never needed to learn to shine. She only needed to stop wasting so much energy trying to extinguish what had always burned within her. like metal that passes through fire not to be destroyed, but to reveal the form that was always there. Hidden beneath the raw material, Virgo overcomes every demand she imposes on herself and emerges on the other side clearer, truer, more whole. The brilliance that dazzles others was never an accident, and it was never vanity. It was, all along, the silent proof that there is something rare in paying attention to the truth, in truly caring, in truly doing, even when no one is watching, even when Virgo herself insists on not noticing. And perhaps that is the most beautiful surprise of all, discovering that you never needed any spotlight because the light has always been yours.